Did Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt, seduce her way to power, or was she a strategic genius? This is a question that has puzzled historians for centuries. Cleopatra, a name that echoes through the annals of history, is often seen as a symbol of seduction and power. But is this all there is to her story? Many of us have heard tales of her bewitching beauty and romantic escapades with powerful men like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Yet others argue that these narratives are oversimplified, painting her as merely a seductress, overlooking her political acumen and strategic mind. Cleopatra, a woman who navigated her way through a male-dominated world, leading Egypt during a time of political upheaval and change. Was she just a manipulative seductress, or was there more to her? A strategic genius, perhaps? So, let's peel back the layers of history and explore the life of Cleopatra. Born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, Cleopatra's early life was steeped in power struggles and political maneuvering. The Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that ruled Egypt for almost 3 centuries, was renowned for its intense internal rivalries, and Cleopatra's family was no exception. Cleopatra VII was born in 69 BC to Ptolemy IV and an unknown mother, presumably a noblewoman. As a child, she was surrounded by the extravagant wealth of the Ptolemies and the intrigue that came with it. Her father's reign was marked by political instability and economic hardship, but Cleopatra was groomed from a young age to navigate the turbulent waters of the Egyptian court. She was educated by the finest scholars of Alexandria, the cultural and intellectual capital of the ancient world. Philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and the arts were all part of Cleopatra's curriculum. But arguably, her most significant education was in the art of ruling. Her father, despite his shortcomings as a ruler, ensured she understood the complex dynamics of power, diplomacy, and the importance of public image. Cleopatra was also a polyglot, speaking at least 7 languages, including Egyptian, which distinguished her from her Greek-speaking predecessors, who had ruled Egypt without speaking the language of their subjects. This ability allowed her to communicate directly with her people and foreign dignitaries, giving her a distinct advantage in negotiations. When her father passed away, Cleopatra, aged just 18, was thrust into power. She initially shared the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, as per the custom of the Ptolemaic dynasty. But Cleopatra had ambitions of her own, and she wasn't content to share power. Despite her youth, Cleopatra's astuteness, charisma, and her understanding of political dynamics enabled her to outmaneuver her adversaries. She quickly consolidated her position, proving herself to be a formidable and shrewd ruler. By the time she was 21, Cleopatra had managed to sideline her brother and become the sole ruler of Egypt, marking the beginning of a new era. At the tender age of 18, Cleopatra had become the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom, and this was just the start of her fascinating journey. Cleopatra's reign was nothing short of tumultuous, marked by political alliances, warfare, and personal tragedy. Let's delve into this intriguing chapter of her life. Taking the helm of Egypt in 69 BC, a mere girl of 18, Cleopatra VII Philopator found herself in an Egypt fraught with internal strife and external threats. The Roman Empire was steadily encroaching upon Egyptian territories, and Cleopatra knew she had to safeguard her kingdom. This required a shrewd political strategy and alliances that would strengthen her position. One such alliance was with the Roman general, Julius Caesar. In 48 BC, Cleopatra smuggled herself into Caesar's palace, wrapped in a carpet. This audacious move, far from a romantic gesture, was a calculated political strategy. Cleopatra was seeking Caesar's support to solidify her rule against her brother and co-ruler, Ptolemy XIII, who sought to oust her. This alliance bore fruit when Caesar defeated Ptolemy's forces in the Battle of the Nile, securing Cleopatra's throne. However, this was not the end of her political maneuverings. She bore Caesar a son, Caesarion, further cementing their alliance. Cleopatra's relationship with Caesar was not merely a romantic entanglement, but a strategic move to maintain Egypt's independence. In 44 BC, Caesar's assassination threw Rome into chaos. Cleopatra, ever the opportunist, sought to leverage this situation. She allied herself with Mark Antony, a powerful Roman general, hoping to protect Egypt's interests and expand its influence. This liaison resulted in 3 children and a period of stability and prosperity for Egypt. However, this alliance was not without its challenges. Antony's rival, Octavian, portrayed their relationship as a scandalous affair, portraying Cleopatra as a seductive queen corrupting a Roman general. Yet, this narrative ignores the political savvy and strategic acumen that underpinned Cleopatra's alliances. Cleopatra's reign was not just about survival. She implemented significant economic reforms, developed trade routes, and promoted the worship of the Egyptian god Isis across the Mediterranean. She was fluent in several languages and was the first Ptolemaic ruler to learn Egyptian, underscoring her commitment to her people. The reign of Cleopatra was punctuated by periods of prosperity and turmoil, political alliances and betrayals, victories and losses. Yet, through it all, Cleopatra remained a commanding figure, steering her kingdom through one of the most tumultuous periods in its history. Her alliances with Caesar and Antony were not just romantic liaisons, but strategic moves to protect and expand her realm. She defied the traditional roles of a queen, engaging in political and military strategies, making decisions that would shape the future of Egypt. Through her alliances, Cleopatra managed to keep her kingdom independent and even expand its influence. Her reign is a testament to her political acumen and strategic genius, challenging the simplistic narrative of Cleopatra as a mere seductress. The question remains, was Cleopatra simply a seductress, or was there more to her? Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, has been painted by history as a femme fatale, a seductress who used her charm and beauty to manipulate powerful men. This image has been perpetuated through countless books, movies, and plays. But is this the whole story? Let's challenge this narrative. While it's true that Cleopatra had relationships with powerful figures like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, it's important to remember that these relationships were not just about passion, they were also about power and politics. Cleopatra was a queen, and like any monarch, she used every tool at her disposal to protect her throne and her kingdom. Consider this. Cleopatra was not just a queen, but also a diplomat, a military strategist, and a polyglot. She was the first in her dynasty to speak Egyptian. She was familiar with the laws, the religion, and the customs of her people. She used this knowledge to consolidate her power and to communicate with her subjects directly, something her predecessors had never done. Moreover, her political acumen was evident in her dealings with Rome. Cleopatra knew that Egypt, with its wealth and strategic location, was a desirable ally for the Roman Empire. By aligning herself with powerful Romans, she hoped to keep Egypt independent and free from Roman control. Let's not forget her leadership during the famine in Egypt. When the Nile failed to flood, leading to a severe famine, Cleopatra took steps to mitigate the crisis. She opened the royal granaries, distributed food to the hungry, and even traded personal treasures to purchase grain from abroad. These actions not only saved her people from starvation but also strengthened her rule. So why has Cleopatra been reduced to a seductress in the annals of history? Perhaps it's easier to accept the image of a woman who uses her beauty to manipulate men, rather than acknowledge her as a competent and strategic leader. Perhaps it's the result of centuries of gender bias, where women in power are often vilified and their achievements overshadowed. But let's challenge this bias. Let's look beyond the seductress narrative and acknowledge Cleopatra for who she really was. A queen who ruled her kingdom with intelligence, strategy, and courage. A queen who was not afraid to make difficult decisions, who was not afraid to stand up to the most powerful empire in the world. A queen who, despite the odds, fought to keep her kingdom independent and prosperous. Perhaps it's time we reassess Cleopatra, not just as a queen known for her romantic liaisons, but as a ruler who commanded respect and wielded power. Like all great stories, Cleopatra's tale also comes with a tragic end. The final years of Cleopatra's reign were marked by political turmoil and personal loss. The once vibrant queen found herself in a battle of wits and war with Octavian, the future first emperor of Rome. Cleopatra and Mark Antony, her Roman ally and lover, faced off against Octavian in a grand naval battle at Actium in 31 BC. Unfortunately, their forces were no match for Octavian's fleet. The defeat was crushing, leading to a rapid unraveling of Cleopatra's power and influence. Following the loss, Mark Antony, under the false impression that Cleopatra had taken her own life, fell on his sword. This tragic turn of events left Cleopatra in a state of despair. She was captured by Octavian, who intended to parade her in Rome, a symbol of his triumph. But Cleopatra was not one to be easily defeated or humiliated. And here enters the most enduring mystery of Cleopatra's life, her death. The popular belief is that she died by the bite of an asp, a symbol of divine royalty. This theory suggests that Cleopatra chose a death befitting a queen, maintaining her dignity to the very end. But the truth may be more complex. Some historians propose that she might have used a poisonous ointment or a sharp implement dipped in toxin. The exact circumstances remain a mystery, shrouded in speculation and myth. What is certain, however, is that Cleopatra's death marked the end of an era. She was the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, a dynasty that had lasted for nearly 3 centuries. After her death, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire, marking the end of Hellenistic rule and the beginning of the Roman period. With Cleopatra's death, the era of the pharaohs came to an end. Her life, marked by passion, political acumen, and personal tragedy, continues to captivate us, etching her name in the annals of history as one of the most intriguing figures of all time. Cleopatra's legacy is as complex as her life was. This line perfectly encapsulates the enigma that was the last pharaoh of Egypt. Her image has been reinterpreted and reimagined over centuries, evolving with the changing cultural and societal landscapes. In the immediate aftermath of her death, Cleopatra was vilified by her Roman conquerors. To them, she was a manipulative seductress who used her charms to ensnare powerful men. This narrative was perpetuated by the Roman poets and historians of the time, shaping Cleopatra's image for centuries to come. However, as society evolved, so too did the perception of Cleopatra. The Renaissance saw a shift in her portrayal. She was no longer just a seductress, but a tragic heroine, a woman of immense power and intelligence brought low by her tragic love for Mark Antony. In the modern era, Cleopatra's story has been further redefined. She is now celebrated as a powerful female ruler in a male-dominated world, a brilliant strategist, and a savvy politician. This shift is not just due to changing societal norms, but also due to a more nuanced understanding of historical context. Cleopatra's portrayal in popular culture reflects these changing perceptions. From Shakespeare's tragic heroine to Elizabeth Taylor's glamorous depiction in the 1963 film Cleopatra, each interpretation tells us as much about the time it was created as it does about Cleopatra herself. The fascination with Cleopatra's story continues unabated. Why? Perhaps because it is a tale of power, passion, and intrigue, or perhaps because Cleopatra herself is a symbol of female power and resilience. She defied the norms of her time, navigating the treacherous waters of politics and power with skill and determination. As we continue to explore her story, we find layers of complexity that challenge our preconceived notions. We see a woman who was more than a seductress, more than a queen. She was a woman who dared to rule, to love, and to fight for her kingdom. Whether a seductress or a strategist, Cleopatra remains an enduring figure in history, a woman who defied conventions and forged her own path. So, what's the verdict? Seductress or strategic genius? As we journeyed through the captivating life of Cleopatra, we unearthed a compelling narrative, one that challenges the traditional portrayal of this iconic queen. We've explored her early years, a time of political unrest and personal growth, which shaped the ruler she would become. We delved into her reign, a period marked by strategic alliances and political maneuvering that solidified her place in history. In our quest to understand Cleopatra, we grappled with the question that has intrigued historians for centuries. Was she a seductress or a strategist? We've seen evidence of both, hinting at a woman who was as complex as the era she ruled. We've looked at her relationships with some of the most powerful men of her time, relationships that were as much about political survival as they were about personal connection. We've also seen her strategic genius at work, as she navigated the treacherous waters of the Roman Empire and kept Egypt independent for as long as she could. We've seen her fall, a dramatic end to a vibrant and tumultuous life. Yet even in death, Cleopatra left a legacy that continues to resonate today. She is remembered as a ruler who was unafraid to use every tool at her disposal to protect her kingdom and her people. Her story is a reminder that history is often more nuanced than the narratives we've been handed down. It challenges us to dig deeper, to question the stereotypes and assumptions that often color our understanding of the past. Ultimately, the life of Cleopatra serves as a testament to the complex and multifaceted nature of historical narratives. One thing is certain: she was far more than just a beautiful woman.